bottle clinks against the chipped rim of the glass as I pour another shot. It's 3 in the morning, the city outside my window a silent, indifferent beast. My apartment, once a sanctuary of blueprints and architectural dreams, is now a mausoleum of empty pizza boxes and crumpled lottery tickets. The divorce papers are a cold weight on my chest. A year ago, I was on top of the world, a rising star in a prestigious firm, married to a beautiful woman, life a symphony of promise and possibility. Now, it's a discordant echo, a symphony played in reverse. The economic downturn hit us like a wrecking ball, shattering my career, our savings, and ultimately, our marriage. She's gone, moved on with a successful real estate developer, the type of man I used to be. I'm left here, a ghost haunting the ruins of my former life. The days blur together, a monotonous cycle of self-pity, cheap whiskey, and online poker games that always end in defeat. My only solace is the old AM transistor radio sitting on the nightstand. A relic from my childhood. It crackles with static and spits out voices from distant stations. Conspiracy theories, end-of-the-world prophecies, and paranoid rants fill the air. Their words a grim soundtrack to my own descent into despair. I find myself drawn to the darker corners of the internet, drawn to the forbidden whispers of the deep web. It's a place where shadows gather, where secrets are traded like currency, a place where I can lose myself in the anonymity of a virtual world, where I can pretend that I'm not the broken shell of a man I've become. One night, as I trawl through a hidden forum, a thread catches my eye. It's titled the Sweepstakes Solitaire, a name that sends a shiver down my spine. The forum members speak in hushed tones of a dark web channel, a place where a twisted game is being played. Curiosity gnaws at me like a starving rat. I hesitate, knowing I shouldn't delve deeper, but the temptation is too strong. With a trembling hand, I click the link. The screen flickers to life, revealing a grainy video feed. A masked figure sits in a dimly lit room, their voice distorted by a voice changer. The figure explains the rules of the game, a macabre blend of survival and chance. 1 year, 1 house, 1 man. The sole means of survival. Winnings from various sweepstakes, delivered at random intervals. The viewers of the dark web channel place bets on the outcome, their morbid curiosity fueling a virtual coliseum. The figure concludes with a chilling invitation. Do you have what it takes to survive the Sweepstakes Solitaire? My heart pounds in my chest. A cold sweat breaks out on my skin. I should turn away, close the browser, and forget this ever happened. But a spark of defiance ignites within me. A desperate gamble, a chance to prove that I'm not the washed-up loser everyone thinks I am. I stare at the screen, the masked figure's eyes seeming to pierce through the pixels and into my soul. A single word escapes my lips, a whisper that echoes in the silent room. Yes. The screen fades to black, leaving me alone with the crackling static of the radio and the gnawing fear that I've just made the biggest mistake of my life. The forum was a rabbit hole of cryptic messages and coded links, each click leading me deeper into the labyrinth of the dark web. It was a place where the lines between reality and fantasy blurred, where the macabre and the mundane intertwined in a grotesque dance. The Sweepstakes Solitaire thread was a beacon in this digital abyss. Title a chilling oxymoron. The forum users, their identities hidden behind cryptic usernames, spoke of the channel with a mixture of awe and revulsion. They shared rumours of past contestants, their fates shrouded in mystery, their lives reduced to mere statistics on a betting board. I delved deeper, my curiosity morphing into an unhealthy obsession. I watched grainy clips of the masked figure explaining the rules, their voice a chilling echo in the dimly lit room. The concept was simple, yet utterly perverse. 1 man, 1 house, 1 year. Survival depended solely on the whims of Lady Luck, the capricious goddess of sweepstakes. The viewers, a faceless mob hidden behind the anonymity of the internet, placed bets on the contestant's fate. Would he survive the year? Would he succumb to madness? Would he simply give up? his spirit broken by the isolation and the relentless scrutiny of the digital crowd. The comments section was a cesspool of cruelty and speculation. Some viewers revelled in the contestants' suffering, their words dripping with venom. Others offered cynical advice, their comments laced with dark humour. A few, a minority, expressed sympathy, their voices a lone cry of humanity in the digital wasteland. I couldn't tear my eyes away. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, a car crash in progress. A part of me was repulsed by the voyeuristic spectacle, yet another part was strangely fascinated. A thought, a dangerous, seductive thought, began to take root in my mind. What if I were the contestant? What if I could prove them all wrong? What if I could defy the odds, outsmart the game, and emerge from the house a victor? It was a foolish notion, a desperate gamble, but as I stared at the screen, the masked figure's eyes seeming to challenge me, a spark of defiance ignited within me, a chance to escape the suffocating loneliness of my life, to prove that I was not the broken man I had become. With trembling fingers, I typed a message on the forum, a single word, a declaration of intent, a challenge to the unseen forces behind the game. I'm in. The message vanished into the digital ether, a ripple in the vast ocean of the dark web. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. I had crossed a line, stepped into a world of shadows and uncertainty. The radio crackled with static, a news bulletin interrupting the paranoid ramblings of a late-night talk show host. It spoke of economic unrest, political turmoil, and a world teetering on the brink of chaos. A chill ran down my spine. The world outside my window seemed suddenly alien, a hostile landscape where the old rules no longer applied. The Sweepstakes Solitaire, once a morbid curiosity, now felt like a life raft in a stormy sea. I closed my eyes, the masked figure's words echoing in my mind. Do you have what it takes to survive? The answer, I knew, would soon be revealed. The van was unmarked, the driver silent as a tomb. We drove for hours through winding back roads, the city lights fading into a desolate expanse of moonlit fields and gnarled trees. My stomach churned with a mix of anticipation and dread, the taste of stale whiskey still clinging to my tongue. The house appeared out of the darkness like a spectre, its silhouette a jagged wound against the star-strewn sky. It was a sprawling Victorian-era monstrosity, its paint peeling like sunburnt skin, its windows boarded up like blind eyes. The driver, a hulking figure in a black hoodie, spoke for the first time since picking me up.
Welcome to your new home, Mr. Miller.
He grunted, his voice a gravelly rasp.
Hope you brought your lucky charms.
He didn't wait for a reply, simply tossed my duffel bag onto the porch and sped off, leaving me alone in the eerie silence. The only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind, a sound that seemed to carry a whispered warning. The house was a labyrinth of dust-laden rooms, each one a decaying monument to a forgotten era. Faded wallpaper hung in tattered strips, revealing glimpses of water-stained plaster. Cobwebs clung to the corners like ghostly veils, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay. My meagre belongings, new changes of clothes, a toothbrush, a worn-out copy of The Shining, were unceremoniously confiscated. In their place, I was given a cardboard box overflowing with entry forms for every sweepstakes imaginable. A cynical gesture, I thought, a reminder that my fate was now tied to the whims of chance. The only item they left me was the AM radio. Its batteries, inexplicably fresh, seemed to mock my predicament. I switched it on, the familiar static filling the silence. A tinny voice crackled through the speaker, a newscaster reporting on a devastating earthquake in a distant land. The radio became my constant companion, a lifeline to a world I'd left behind. I listened to news of natural disasters, political upheavals, and economic collapses, a grim symphony of chaos and despair. Occasionally, a popular song would break through the static, its cheerful melody twisted into a haunting refrain by the eerie silence of the house. The house itself seemed to watch me, its shadows shifting like silent observers. I felt a constant, unseen presence, a feeling that I was never truly alone. The floorboards creaked under my feet, doors creaked open and shut on their own, and the wind whistled through the cracks in the walls, its mournful song chilling me to the bone. Days turned into nights, the passage of time marked only by the changing light filtering through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. I filled out entry forms with a manic intensity, my handwriting growing increasingly erratic. I listened to the radio with a growing sense of dread, the news bulletins a constant reminder of the world's fragility. The isolation was starting to take its toll. I talked to myself, argued with the voices on the radio, and even found myself conversing with the dust bunnies that gathered under the antique furniture. The sweepstakes, once a glimmer of hope, now felt like a cruel joke. I had yet to receive a single prize, my entries seemingly vanishing into the digital void. The dark web audience, I imagined, was watching me with amusement, their bets a silent commentary on my deteriorating mental state. As I drifted off to sleep one night, the radio crackled to life. A distorted voice, barely audible above the static, whispered my name.
Jack,
It hissed, the sound sending a shiver down my spine.
the game has just begun.
The first few weeks were a whirlwind of nervous energy and unexpected victories. A package arrived on the doorstep, containing a week's worth of dehydrated meals and a case of bottled water. A few days later, a thick wool blanket appeared, offering warmth against the house's drafty chill. The winds, small as they were, fueled a flickering flame of hope in my chest. I meticulously filled out each sweepstakes entry, my handwriting a manic scrawl as I envisioned a pantry overflowing with gourmet food and a closet filled with brand new clothes. The dark web audience seemed to share my initial optimism. The comments section buzzed with speculation, some viewers placing bets on my resilience, others predicting my imminent demise. The odds fluctuated with each delivery, a digital barometer of my perceived chances of survival. But as weeks turned into months, the deliveries became less frequent, the prizes more bizarre. A year's supply of expired canned tuna arrived, the stench of rotting fish permeating the kitchen. A broken fishing rod followed, its rusted hook a cruel taunt in a house miles from any body of water. The most unsettling prize was a tattered book on wilderness survival, its pages warped and water-stained, crucial chapters ripped out as if by a malicious hand. It was a cruel reminder of my isolation, a mockery of my attempts to impose order on the chaos of my situation. The radio, once a lifeline, became a source of torment. The static grew louder, drowning out the voices of the outside world. In its place, a new voice emerged, a distorted, whispering voice that seemed to slither from the very depths of the speaker.
Jack,
It hissed, the sound a chilling caress against my eardrums.
are you enjoying the game?
I jerked upright, my heart pounding. I searched the room, my eyes darting from shadow to shadow. There was no one there, only the dusty furniture and the cobwebs clinging to the ceiling like spectral drapes. "Who's there?" I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. The voice chuckled, a low, guttural sound that sent shivers down my spine.
Don't you recognize me, Jack? I'm the voice in your head, the echo of your deepest fears.
I slammed my fist on the radio, the static momentarily interrupted by a high-pitched squeal. The voice returned, undeterred, its words laced with venom.
You can't escape me, Jack. I'm always here, lurking in the shadows, waiting for you to slip. And you will slip, Jack. You'll lose your grip on reality, just like the others.
The others, the words hung in the air. A chilling reminder of the contestants who had come before me, the ones who had vanished without a trace, their fates forever shrouded in mystery. I switched off the radio, the silence a welcome relief from the tormenting voice. But the words continued to echo in my mind, a poisonous seed planted in the fertile soil of my paranoia. I paced the room, my mind racing. Was the voice real, or was it a figment of my imagination? A symptom of the isolation and stress? Was it part of the game, a psychological weapon designed to break my spirit? Or was it something else entirely? Something far more sinister lurking in the shadows of the house, waiting for the opportune moment to strike? The house was no longer just a dwelling. It was a living, breathing entity, its malevolent presence seeping into my bones. Each creak of the floorboards sent shivers down my spine, as if the house itself were stalking me. Shadows danced in the periphery of my vision, lengthening and twisting into monstrous shapes that vanished when I turned to face them. Whispers, barely audible at first, now echoed through the empty rooms, their words a chilling symphony of madness. Sleep offered no escape. My dreams were a grotesque carnival of distorted images. The faces of the dark web audience, once a faceless mob, now materialized in my subconscious. Their expressions a horrifying blend of mockery and glee. They pointed at me, their laughter echoing in the cavernous recesses of my mind. I would wake in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the whispers of the house a chilling counterpoint to the fading remnants of my nightmares. The radio voice became my constant tormentor. It no longer just whispered my name. It taunted me, questioned my sanity, and predicted my doom with gleeful anticipation. It spoke in riddles, its words a nonsensical jumble that hinted at a deeper, more sinister truth.
The clock ticks, Jack.
It hissed one night, its voice a venomous caress against my eardrums.
The sand runs out. Soon you'll be just another forgotten ghost, a footnote in the annals of the Sweepstakes Solitaire.
I threw the radio against the wall, its plastic casing shattering on impact, but the voice continued, emanating from the broken speaker, its volume amplified by the destruction.
You can't silence me, Jack. I'm a part of you now, a parasite feeding on your fear. I'll be with you until the end, whispering sweet nothings as you spiral into the abyss.
The voice's words were a prophecy I couldn't escape. The house, the isolation, the relentless psychological torment, they were wearing me down, chipping away at the last vestiges of my sanity. I began to see patterns in the peeling wallpaper, hidden messages in the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. I heard the whispers even in the silence, their voices a constant reminder of my impending doom. One night, as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, I saw a face emerge from the swirling patterns of the plaster. It was a woman's face, pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow pits of despair. Her lips moved, but I couldn't hear her words. I reached out to touch her, but my fingers passed through the spectral image. She smiled, a chilling, predatory grin that sent shivers down my spine. And then she vanished, leaving me alone with the darkness and the relentless whispers of the house. The next morning, I found a new delivery on the doorstep. It was a mirror, its silver surface reflecting my haggard face. My eyes hollow and haunted. I barely recognized myself, the man who had once been confident and ambitious, now a hollow shell. A puppet dancing to the tune of the unseen puppet masters behind the Sweepstakes Solitaire. I raised a shaking hand to the mirror, my reflection mimicking the gesture. A tear rolled down my cheek, leaving a salty trail on my skin. "Who am I?" I whispered, my voice barely audible above the whispers of the house. "What have I become?" The mirror offered no answers, only the reflection of a man lost in the labyrinth of his own fractured mind. My ribs pressed against my skin like a macabre xylophone. The gnawing hunger was a constant companion, a dull ache that throbbed in time with the hammering of my heart. My once sharp mind had dulled, the edges frayed by the relentless onslaught of isolation and paranoia. I was a ghost, haunting a house of horrors, a prisoner in my own deteriorating body. But a flicker of defiance remained, a stubborn refusal to surrender to the darkness that threatened to engulf me. I clung to the last vestiges of hope, a tattered entry form clutched in my trembling hand. The sweepstakes was a long shot, a desperate gamble. The prize, a year's supply of food and water, was a lifeline in the vast ocean of my despair. I poured my remaining energy into filling out the form. My handwriting, a spidery scrawl on the yellowed paper. As I sealed the envelope and placed it by the front door, a wave of exhaustion washed over me. I collapsed onto the dusty sofa, the radio's static a lullaby of doom. Days turned into a torturous waiting game. The house seemed to contract around me, the walls closing in like the jaws of a predator. The shadows grew longer, stretching across the floor like grasping claws. The whispers, once a murmur, now rose to a fever pitch, their voices a chorus of condemnation. The radio voice became a relentless tormentor. It chanted a countdown to my demise, its words dripping with sadistic glee.
10 days left, Jack. 9 days left. 8 days left.
Each day was an eternity, a battle against the encroaching darkness. I rationed the last crumbs of food, my stomach churning with emptiness. I drank rainwater collected in a rusty bucket, the metallic taste a grim reminder of my desperation. The house seemed to revel in my suffering. The floorboards creaked louder, the shadows danced with renewed vigor, and the whispers became a cacophony of torment.
You're losing your grip, Jack.
The radio voice cackled.
You're fading away, a candle flickering in the wind.
I huddled under the threadbare blanket, the cold seeping into my bones. I tried to distract myself, to focus on anything but the gnawing hunger and the relentless voices. I recited poetry, sang songs from my childhood, and even attempted to solve the cryptic riddles the radio voice had posed. But the darkness was relentless, its tendrils reaching into every corner of my mind. I saw faces in the swirling patterns of the wallpaper, heard footsteps in the empty rooms, and felt the phantom touch of unseen hands on my skin. The final day arrived, the radio voice's countdown reaching its climax.
1 day left, Jack.
I sat in the center of the living room. The box of empty sweepstakes forms a monument to my failed attempts at salvation. The radio's static was a deafening roar, the voice a demonic incantation. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the room, a car pulled up outside the house. A figure emerged from the darkness, a package clutched in their hand. Hope flickered within me, a fragile flame in the face of despair. Could this be it? The delivery I had been waiting for? The answer to my prayers? I stumbled to the door, my legs weak and trembling. I reached out a shaking hand and grasped the package. The radio voice reached a crescendo, its words a frenzied chant.
Time's up, Jack.
The day arrived like a judgment, heavy and suffocating. The air hung thick with anticipation, each creak of the house a drumbeat of doom. I sat hunched on the floor, my back against the peeling wallpaper. The radio clutched to my chest like a lifeline. My body was a skeletal frame, my skin stretched taut over protruding bones. My eyes, once bright and full of life, were now sunken pits, reflecting the despair that had taken root in my soul. The radio crackled with static, the distorted voice a symphony of anticipation.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It boomed, the moment you've all been waiting for, the final results of the Sweepstakes Solitaire. A hush fell over the dark web channel, a collective holding of breath. I could almost feel the weight of their gazes, their morbid curiosity burning through the digital veil. The voice on the radio drew out the suspense, teasing the audience with cryptic remarks and dramatic pauses. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of ribs.
and the winner is...
The voice paused, the silence stretching into an eternity. I held my breath, my knuckles white as I gripped the radio.
James Harrison of Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
A wave of nausea washed over me. My body went numb, my mind refusing to accept the words I had just heard. It couldn't be true. It was a mistake, a cruel joke. The radio voice cackled with delight, its laughter echoing through the empty rooms of the house.
Better luck next time, Jack.
It taunted.
Maybe in the next life.
I stared at the radio, my eyes wide with disbelief. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, reality dissolving into a swirling vortex of despair. The house groaned, its timbers creaking like the bones of a dying beast. I stumbled to my feet, my legs shaking beneath me. I staggered to the window, the moonlight casting an eerie glow on the desolate landscape. A single tear rolled down my cheek, a silent testament to my defeat. As I stood there, staring into the abyss, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was the delivery man, his face hidden in the shadows, a package clutched in his hand. He placed it on the doorstep and vanished without a word. I opened the package with trembling hands, my heart a frantic drumbeat in my chest. Inside, I found a single can of peaches, its label faded and peeling. I stared at the can, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. A final, cruel twist of fate, a mocking reminder of my failure. I raised the can to my lips, the sweet juice a momentary respite from the bitterness of defeat. As I swallowed, the radio's static filled the void, its whispers a haunting symphony of madness. The screen faded to black, leaving only the echoes of my despair and the unanswered question, was it all real? Or was it just a game, a cruel experiment played on a broken man? The answer, lost in the static of the radio and the shadows of my fractured mind, would forever remain a mystery.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Quantum Dispatches and stay tuned next week for another thrilling adventure. Thank you for listening.